Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Appreciate you listening to this little podcast that we've got going on here. Before I get into today's topic, as always, I'd just like to ask you a few quick favors. If you could please make sure that you have liked and subscribed to whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on, this particular podcast. By doing that, you will help us continue to grow the podcast and continue to get it out so more people can listen. While you're there, you can follow the links in the show notes to our Facebook and Instagram pages. So at The Unstoppable Dad on Instagram, The Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook, and there's a whole bunch of other links there. YouTube channels, which has movement instructional videos. There's a link to book in for a chat if you'd like to have a talk to us about a coaching program. But most importantly, please make sure that you have liked and subscribed on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on, and leave us a review if you feel so inclined. All right, this week, topic for the week and the show episode is: the more I learn, the less I realize I actually know. And it's come about from, I've been doing a little bit of a deep dive just around hot and cold plunge, sauna, cold plunges, things like that. And I've listened to quite a few different podcasts, watched a few different videos, and took in some information from a few different medical doctors, and they've talked about different studies, they've talked about the benefits. And one of the things that I've noticed is, depending on when the podcast or when the particular person is talking about this, really depends on what message they're putting across. So if you look at some information from years ago, there's certain people who may still be carrying the same information from what they've put out a few years ago to now. There's other people who have changed what they're saying. There's people who are now talking about this who weren't talking about this. And the big thing that I'm taking away from this is there's no one size fits all, right? And it doesn't matter whether it is hot and cold plunges or it is saunas or it is ice baths or whatever it is. It's going to be very dependent on the individual, but most importantly, what that person wants to achieve from doing it. So if we talk about ice baths, right, and one of the things that, a common thread that I'm seeing from this is a lot of the data that is coming out is very anecdotal, and it all comes down to really the level of control around the particular studies that they're doing, right? So what I mean by that is, when it comes to a physiological response from anything, whether it be ice baths, whether it be saunas, or whether it be, say, supplementation, a lot of it, there's a lot of control elements in there which can't particularly be controlled. Well, they could be, but the only way to control them would be to have everybody locked up, have them eating exactly the same thing, making sure they're getting the same amount of sleep, like all these other, there's a whole bunch of variables which are very, very hard to control, which can impact the outcome of the particular study. And so it all comes down to really a feeling around what's going on. And when you're talking about the way somebody feels with somebody, something, not somebody, sorry, I misspoke then, but about something that they're doing, there can be an actual physiological response that's being driven from that, but it can also be psychological as well too. But there are certain things that they know around, like these cold therapies, that are working for people, right? One thing that has come out is that if you're looking for hypertrophy, then muscle building, you probably don't want to jump in a cold plunge directly after training. And that's pretty universal with the information that's coming out. Why? Because it actually bluntens the inflammatory response which is happening, which you're trying to achieve from training. Now, training it's a stressor. It's something where we're trying to actually achieve inflammation within the body, because inflammation causes the body to adapt to that. And then that in turn, if it's hypertrophy, so muscle building that you're looking to do, will cause us to grow. So by going and jumping into an ice bath straight after you've done a training session, you're actually blunting that natural response of the body, therefore not enabling you to achieve the desired result that you're trying to do. Now, if you're looking for, say, for example, if you were a sports person and you've then played a game of football and you're looking to play another game of football the next week and you want to achieve it a bit at a higher level, you actually want to blunt that inflammatory response, right? Like you don't want to become inflamed because you've got shit to do. So the reason I kind of went down that rabbit hole and spoke about those two instances is they're using exactly the same technique, but they're trying to achieve two different results. So whenever you're implementing something or you're trying to bring something in, you have to understand what the result you want to achieve, because you can use a very similar method to achieve two different results depending on timing, depending on frequency, and depending on a whole bunch of other variables. But also with that as well too, say for example, there would be some people, and there was a particular doctor that I was listening to who I listened to an interview he did years prior to the last one where he was pushing ice baths for most people who were training beforehand, but to do it afterwards, regardless of what the goal was. And later on down the line, he has changed his opinion based off data that he has been given to not necessarily for one group of people. He has changed his opinion on what he should, what the application of this particular thing. Now, he hasn't completely gone off the fact that these people should partake in that particular thing that he is doing, but he's changed what he's looking at within that and the application of that based off the data that he's been given. And therein lies the title of the podcast, right? The more we learn, the less we actually realize that we know. And just because that particular person, and I'm sure if I've been doing this podcast now for over 18 months, right? And I'm sure if you go and listen to some of my earlier podcasts and then some of the podcasts that I've done recently, you may find that there has been a change in my opinion about a particular topic. And that isn't because what would be the word for it? I'm trying to think of the word. I've just had a mental blank. That's not because I was incorrect. It was just based off the information I was given at that particular time. That is what I believe to be true. And now, given more information, I've actually changed my approach and my thinking around whatever particular topic that is, because I've been given better data, I've been given better insight, and I've been given better information to make a more informed decision. And it doesn't matter what it is. I think that as we get older in life and as we mature, we have to change our approach, because if we're not changing our approach, we're not actually growing, we're not evolving, and we're not going to move to a different stage in our life where we're going to be able to achieve more than what we have done in our previous iterations of our life. And when it comes to training, when it comes to nutrition, and when it comes to certain things to do with our health, obviously there is always more information coming out and nothing is ever fixed. Things are fluid. The only constant is that things will change over time. And I guess it's just about the big reason I wanted to jump on and do this is understanding that just because something has worked for you in the past doesn't mean it has to work for you now. Because as we start to get more information and as we start to become different people, we are going to need to change our approach. Because if we don't change our approach, the problem is going to be everything externally may have changed and even internally may have changed. But if we're trying to get a different result with a similar approach that we used in a different set of circumstances, we're going to run into trouble and we're not actually going to be able to get there. And that is going to potentially cause a change, but a change in a negative direction rather than a change in a positive direction. It's really important to understand that it is okay to be wrong and it is okay to change your opinion on something because you get more information and you get better information. And I think there's a lot around. And even people that I deal with on a daily basis who they don't want to change the approach that they did, even though it might be working. It might not be working for them because they're married to the fact that it worked in a previous life. And they don't understand that things change and things evolve, and therefore we have to change our approach, and we have to change the way we're doing things, because if we don't, we're not going to be able to achieve the goals that we want. And also too, within that, as our circumstances change, our goals are going to change. So what do you do if you want to change something? Well, there's there's a multitude of different ways you can go about that. You can go and you can deep dive and you can try and gather all the information you want, and then make an objective decision about the steps that you need to make in order to come out of that. You can also look at getting somebody to help you, somebody who is a coach, even a friend or family member who is coming at it from a different angle to you. If there's a particular situation or set of circumstances that you want to change within your life, getting somebody's advice to try and get some actionable steps to help you move forward, I think is an important thing to try and do. But also too, but then once you've got that information and you understand what the next step is, try and make small changes, okay? And some of you will be able to make big wholesale changes, but there's a reason why I think making small changes is very, very important, especially if life feels very, very hectic. Let's take implementing an exercise regime, or even changing your overall health and wellness, right? Sometimes you may need to make bulk wholesale changes. And if you make bulk wholesale changes, you may be able to get very, very quick results. But if you make small changes, so you pick one thing that you want to change, right? And then you do that for 6 to 12 weeks. And then you see what the result is of that one thing. Or that there is no result for that one thing. Then you can make an informed decision at the end of that as to, right, this one thing has made an impact on these areas of my life, and I want to continue to make an impact on those areas of my life, and then so I'm going to keep doing that one thing. And then once you've done that, and you then find that that's making a result, you can then add in something else. So add in another thing, and then once you've added in another thing, you can see how that makes a change to your life, and then make an informed decision on whether you keep that or reduce that. But by doing that on a 6 or 12 week cycle, you're able to make an informed decision and almost treat it like your own little science experiment on yourself. And I'm going to use the instance of supplementation, right? And self-administered supplementation. I'm not talking about using going to a doctor, getting some blood work done, or somebody who specializes in that side of things, self-supplementation. There is a whole industry predicated on the fact that people are going to make bulk wholesale changes. So if anyone's ever gone into a supplement store, and this is going to sound like I'm shitting on supplement stores, and there are certain things in there which, depending on your particular set of circumstances, may be important. So I'm not completely doing that, but I'm going to use this as an example because it's a big one that I come up with. I see a lot when people want to make a lifestyle change. They'll go into a supplement store and they'll spend $300 on supplements for a month, and they'll get about six different things. And what will happen is they'll do all those 6 different things, the protein powder, whatever, BCAAs. I'm not going to go into the efficacy of each individual thing, but they'll do it, and then they automatically see improvements in all these elements of their life. They start to feel better, more energy, they're performing better at the gym, and it's all happening. And what they do is they tie that result to all of those things that they've gone and bought. They've gone and bought the whole $300 supplement stack. So then what happens? They then go and buy it next month and next month and next month. Now, I think it's fantastic that they've got that result because they've made a concerted effort to change, and it is the outlay and the investment that they've put into that has moved them in the right direction. But then the problem becomes when maybe circumstances change and you can't afford the whole $300 stack. So what do you do then? Well, you don't actually know what has actually made a difference, because I will say with a fair bit of surety that out of the $300 you've spent on those 6 different things, there's probably 1, maybe 2 things in there that have actually made a difference to the way you're feeling. But you don't know what it is because you haven't gone through that stepped out process to determine what actually worked for you. What would be a better approach would be when you make that decision to make that change for yourself, and then you go to the supplement store, you buy one thing. You might buy the protein powder to start off with, and it's $50. And then, or whatever the case might be. And then you do that for 6 to 12 weeks. And you may find that you get the same result that you've got from all six of those things. But the difference is you've only had to outlay for one thing, but you know that it's that one thing that has made a difference. And then you may not quite be where you want to be or get the result that you want to get. So after you know that that has made a difference and I want to continue to take that, or I want to continue to do this particular thing, then I can then go and add in a second thing. And I do that same process for 6 to 12 weeks. And you may actually find by adding in that second thing, it doesn't make a difference. The base level hasn't been raised. So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that it's probably not a wise investment or a wise outlay for me to be adding this in. So then I can remove that, and then I can try it with a third thing. And then I might find that after a 6 or 12 week period that my base level raises again. I find I'm getting slightly better results, right? Now I've got 2 things rather than 6 things that I know work for me and actually give me a desired result. And that's the thing with making any change. If you really want to know what makes a difference to your life, implementing small changes not only is going to help you build out things that are going to work for you, it also means that when times get tough and you have to adapt and then you need to strip things down to the bare basics, you know what the low-hanging fruit is for you to get the best result, because you've gone through that process of identifying that this thing or this habit is the number one thing that I need to do if I can't do anything else. That's going to give me the best bang for my buck because I've gone through that process of elimination and adding things and seeing how it affects me. Whereas if I just make bulk wholesale changes, it means that I'm unsure what the low-hanging fruit is. And then if I need to make adjustments, I don't know what the first step's going to be. So big thing is, don't be scared to change whenever you get more information. I think it is a natural part of the human experience that as soon as you get more information given to you and better information, you should be able to sit there and objectively look at it and go, you know what? Maybe that opinion I had, or maybe that method that I was using needs to be tweaked or changed or completely thrown out. And then when you get that new information and you want to make a change, make small incremental changes so you know exactly what works for you, and you know exactly if you need to strip things back, what are the minimums, what's that low-hanging fruit so that you can get the best bang for your buck. If you need help identifying some things for you, reach out. I'm here to help. That's one of the things that I do with habit implementation, trying to get people, back on track with their overall strength, health, and athleticism. And so if you need help with that, please reach out. As I said, sometimes it's good to have an objective opinion of somebody who's not you, because when we look at things for ourselves, and I'm guilty of it, everyone's guilty of it. Doesn't matter who you are. When you look at things for yourself, you're never looking at them through the most objective lens. So getting somebody else to have a bird's eye view look at what's going on in the situation that you want to change can be very, very helpful. So take care. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next week. Bye.